Hi everyone, I'm Maddie, and today we're going to be talking about resumes. And so think of this as a guide to creating your first resume or updating one that you already have created. So what is a resume? It's a one-page document created by a person to present their background, skills, and accomplishments, typically when applying for an internship or a job. And it tends to be customized depending on the position that you're applying for. So if it's software engineering, it's going to be more technical. But if it's for teaching, maybe it'll be more about you explaining complex topics to students. And it should contain your most recent highlights of your career. So for first and second years, it's still okay to have stuff from high school. So I'm going to talk about four parts for your resume, and this is the first part. This is your header. So right at the top of your document, you're going to have your name big and bold. You could have it in caps, you could not. It's up to you. But this is something that you really want to stick out to your recruiter. You want it to be the first thing that they see. And then you want to wait for them to contact you for following up or if they want to interview with you. And so you can do this by having your email. You can optionally have your phone number. And then if you want to know more about the projects you've done, and we'll talk about this throughout the class, you can have your GitHub link. And then after this week, you'll have your LinkedIn. And so you can also put that link here so that they can know more about you and they can see other experiences that you have that may not be on your resume. So let's go through some examples. So this bottom one over here needs improvement because one, the font isn't really professional and it is different from the email address font. And the email address is embarrassing. You don't want an embarrassing email address on your resume. You want to be professional or you want to be a school email. And that's why this one's okay. It has a school email, that's good. But the name doesn't really pop out to me. And then this top one's excellent. It really does use space really well as it has everything on the side, but you can also put the LinkedIn, the GitHub, and the school email all under it. That works just as good too. And the name really pops out to me, which is really great. So the next section is education. So you want to include your current degree path. So if you're doing a BA or a BS and your major, and then you want to put the school that you're in and your graduation date. And then optionally, you can have your coursework here and you can have your GPA, or you can also have awards or honors that you've gotten in university or if you're a scholarship recipient. And so now let's look at some examples. So this bottom one needs improvement because it really doesn't delineate that it is the education section. And that's really important. And it also doesn't include your expected graduation date, which is necessary for recruiters as they are figuring out what type of job that they can offer you or internship that they should offer you based on when you're graduating. And so this one's just okay. It doesn't really highlight that it is the education section. Education is not really bolded, and so that's not clean. Is basically why it's just okay. And so this top one's excellent because you really know that that is the education section, has all the things that's needed, and it all like flows really well. And it's the coursework and also GPA, which is really nice to have as well. Because some companies look at it, some don't, most don't. So that's why it's optional, especially for CS. And so let's go to the next section, which is experience, or you can also name it relevant experience. And this is when you really talk about the bulk of the experiences or things that you've done to make you applicable for this job that you're applying for. And so this is where you're talking about your internships, research, participation in clubs or activities, and your leadership experience. And this is really good here. This person uses organized, planned, designed, assembled, evaluated, presented, explored. These are really great action words that I highly advise for you to use in your resume. And you can always go on Google and look up action words, and there'll be so many different examples for you to use because you don't want to be repetitive with the action words that you use. And this will also really talk about the who, what, when, where, and how. So think about these things as you are creating the details for the activities or experiences that you've had. I also want to point out a few of them. This one right here is really good, responsible for the mentorship and support for over 30 engineering transfer students. So this is good as they talk about the impact that they had and they quantify the impact by talking about the number of people that they impacted, which is really cool. And you may not have this now, but you will later. And then this one's also, yeah, so the assembled and evaluated various neural network techniques to classify PDEs. So you can definitely use widely used acronyms in your resume, but if you may think that someone may not know what it's going to be, you should put, for this one, for example, you put partial differential equations, then in parentheses, put PDE, and then you can use PDE wherever you want throughout the rest of the resume. So definitely be prepared to discuss your experiences during your interviews because during most of my interviews, they really just kind of go through your resume and they ask you to further explain what you did during these experiences, especially if they're really important to you. And also be sure you don't have to put every experience that you've ever had on your resume because, like I said earlier, it's more about tailoring it to the position that you're applying for. And so you definitely have more experiences that you bring up later, and you actually can bring them up in your interview as well, even if it's not in your resume. And so maybe right now you're thinking, what if I don't really have experience? I think you do. You just have to market it a little bit. So you can definitely talk about stuff from high school if you're a first or second year, but also maybe during your intro to CS class, you made a small game. And that's so cool. That's still something. That's still something that you did. And so you can definitely put that on your resume. And I highly recommend for you to do so. And definitely don't forget to use those action words that we discussed a little bit earlier. So let's go to the last section. So this is technical skills or skills section. You can call it either or. It's really up to you. This is where you list your programming languages that you know, and optionally you can indicate the skill level that you know them at. So if it's beginner, intermediate, or advanced. And then you can talk about technologies that you've used in past projects. And then optionally you can put your relevant coursework here. So you can put it here in the skills section, or you can put it in the education section. It's really up to you. It's really what makes the most sense to you, because I feel like I've talked to multiple recruiters and I've gotten mixed things about where I should put it. So let's go through some examples. This bottom one needs improvement, and the biggest reason for me, there's two reasons. One, it says currently enrolled in CS 2150 and CS 2102. If you go to the University of Virginia, you know what this is. If you don't, you may not, and especially a recruiter may not. So it's better to talk about the names of the classes rather than saying like CS 2150. Like you want to say program and data representation, and then discrete math, instead of having these, because people may not know what skills you've had, and you really want to be clear about the classes you've taken and the skills that you have for the job that you're applying for. And then here, technical skills isn't bolded. I think to really section it out, you should definitely have it bolded. And then there's two good examples here. This one minimizes space. And it really just talks about the programming languages they know and the frameworks they've used in projects, and even knowing Chinese is really cool to have as a skill on here. And then this one that we've looked at a little bit earlier is really good as well. It talks about they have a certificate, they talk about advanced experiences in these programming languages and beginner and intermediate experiences with these programming languages. And then it talks about academic tutoring that they've done as well. Both are really good. And definitely do not list anything that you aren't prepared to explain during an interview, or if like you aren't able to use it in a job after a little bit of brushing up if you hadn't seen it for a while, then don't put that as well. So here's the assignment. I want you to create your own resume using these 4 sections that we just talked about. And definitely reread your resume, pretend that you're a recruiter. What stands out? Does your resume actually reflect your experiences? And then submit it. And then optionally, you can book an appointment with a career center to review your resume to make it even better. So thanks for watching, and have fun making your resume.